welcome back to another edition of Meet a Geek. I am Omar, and today I am joined by a very close and probably one of my best friends in the entire world, Ryan of the Salts family. Ryan, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I feel like there should be a clap track or something that'll be dropped in there. Are we even recording right now? I don't know.
Yeah, we are recording. That's why I did the whole intro thing.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I dig
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Yeah, we don't have any of those clap sound effects yet, but
Yeah.
once we get our Patreon set up, I don't know if we're
The budget
yeah,
you
once
need.
we get the budget. I'm not sure if we're ever going to do a Patreon, but hey, it's out there. It's out there now. It's out there in the
Go fund
universe.
it, guys, if
Yeah,
you're
that's
watching
right.
this one. Laugh
So
track.
50 bucks a month. That's all I ask for. All right.
Yeah.
So Ryan, as we begin every single Meet a Geek episode, we'd love to know, who are you?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Ryan. I'm of the Salts family, as Omar said.
We covered that.
Uh,
We covered that part.
I'm just trying to, maybe you mumbled or something like that. I actually mumble a lot. So, um,
It's the worst
yeah, I'm
kind
the
of rap.
director
It's
of a
the
place
worst
called
kind of
Launch
rap.
SA. Sorry, what?
I was saying, like, mumble rap is the worst kind of rap.
Arbitrary, maybe.
It's a hot take. It's a hot take. Anyway, director of Lunch SA. Go.
Lunch SA, yeah. So we serve you up business one course at a time.
Nice.
I used to say that when we were Cafe Commerce. Anyway, long story short, I run an entrepreneurship center, which is at the Central Library. Although recently it's been at my computer.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's like the short, not exciting version, but yeah, that's the short version.
So as director of Launch SA, what are some of the things that you do on a daily basis? What does your job entail? What sort of programs are you running over there at Launch SA? Tell us about it.
Yeah, of course. So Launch SA is like I said, it's an entrepreneurship center. We don't focus on any specific businesses in the sense that we're sort of industry agnostic. If you come in, it's not like you're going to see I don't know, tech stuff or what. Like there's not going to be a construction site or anything like that. That'll really like you'll think like, oh man, I can't go in there because it's for those people. Like it's for everybody. The baseline is think of us as sort of like the Google for your business, if you will. I mean, you could just Google, but think of us as like a hyper local Google for your business. So if you're trying to figure out who do I talk to, what do I do next, will this work, like can someone help me make friends for business, like that's kind of the short version of how I would explain it, I guess. If you're a little older, I might call it the 311 for small business, and if you're on the shadier side, I might call it the guy that knows a guy in business. uh, yeah, so that's kind of how I would describe it. That's level one. So like if you don't know what you're doing at any stage along your business route, like just let us know and we'll help you figure out what that next step is. So we're like now if I really want to go old right here, we're like the Rand McNally or the Mapsco of business journeys. So or you can, today's I think people use like MapQuest, like we're like the MapQuest of, or like the Google Maps, or like the Apple Maps of small business. So,
So you lead people in the wrong direction.
well, that's why I led with Google Maps.
Right.
Apple Maps was last on my list. So we're
Okay.
like the Waze of small business. How about
That's
that?
better. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I like that a lot better.
because actually, we're like probably most like the Waze because it's community supported,
Right. Yeah.
and then people actually like tell you about the stuff that might be along the road, so you can avoid it. Yeah, we're like the Waze. I might start saying that now.
I think that makes a lot more sense. As long as people know what Waze is. Otherwise, it's just a funny word and you're comparing yourself to a funny word.
Yeah,
Uh,
WAZE. It's an app
yeah.
owned by Google.
Owned by Google. Yeah. It's a Maps app. So, and if you haven't checked it out, please do. All right. So let's say, for example, I am somebody who wants to start a small business.
Yeah.
And what we do is we import artichoke tea into the United States and we want to
I've heard.
distribute. Yeah, this is something that my wife and I were really considering was importing artichoke tea from China
Yeah.
and then distributing it across our different markets, right? So my wife and I at the time, and probably still are, have no idea what we're doing, and it's not something that it's not something that we're currently pursuing. But at the time, we were really considering all of our options. So we went to Ryan and to kind of illustrate Ryan's point. So let's just say hypothetically, let's go back in time to that moment where I brought that idea over to you, or rather, my wife and I brought that over to you. It's really my wife's idea. All credit goes to her. What were some of the things that you did to help me kind of move that business forward, even though it hasn't, and that's by our choice, not because of a lack of resources or a lack of anything.
Yeah.
What were some things that you did to help me and my wife kind of move forward?
Yeah, for sure. So there's a couple things in there. So the import export part is a big question. So the legality of artichoke tea, I'm sure if it exists in the U.S. already, then it probably isn't a problem.
Yeah, it exists.
However, if you already go ahead.
It does exist. It exists.
Well, if you have like just the whole a specific supplier that you have in wherever you're getting it from to bring it to the U.S., like that's going to require some logistics.
Mm-hmm.
There are a few centers at UTSA that can help with sort of the import export support. There's also the Minority Business Development Center there that potentially can support your growth there. Um, so there's a few different, like, I would say, more process oriented recommendations that I would throw or did throw at you that were
Right.
really about like, can you do it versus like how to do it.
Right.
And then like moving past all that, because that's sort of like, I don't want to call it busy work, but that's like, it doesn't really, like, at the end of the day, if you can get it here, great. If you can't, then it's over anyway.
Yeah, it's foundational.
um right. So after that, it's really, so how do you want to sell it? Like, do you want to
Right.
go, are you trying to sell it like in retail? Are you trying to like do some sort of wholesale agreement? Are you trying to make like artichoke tea the next thing? Or are you trying to do it online? And so there are a lot of nuances there. And I think that's really where the value of what we do at Launch SA comes through is, yeah, all the regulation and process oriented stuff we can help you with. I mean, that is sort of a bread and butter of ours.
Mm-hmm.
But the specialty is to really dig in and say, well, how are you trying to do this? And then articulate a path that includes mentors, or education, or just community in general that'll support those goals, right? So I'm not here to dictate, oh, you want to do artichoke tea. Well, that sounds dumb. I'm not, I don't drink artichoke tea. I've never had artichoke tea. Like, no one wants artichoke tea except for you. I don't know why you're bringing it up. I'm like, that's not what we're about. And then also, I'm not trying to say, oh man, you know what? This could be $1 billion industry. You want to do it this way. Like, if you just want to open, like, I don't know, artichoke stop or something, like, I don't know why it would be called that, but if you wanted to open a place like that was just like a one flavor tea house.
Just call it choke stop.
Yeah, stop choke or
Stop
whatever.
choke.
Then we would help you figure that out. Like, it's, we lay out the plan based on your variables. And it takes us kind of digging into, well, what are the variables and how do you see this unfolding? And if there is something wrong with it, or at least if I have a question if something is wrong with it, rather than saying, I think this might be wrong, and telling you like, okay, well, you should probably stop now. What I'll do is I'll probably tell you, hey, you should go talk to these other people that have done some similar things and see what their experience was, because maybe they know, maybe it was wrong, but maybe they know how to do it right this time. Um, so yeah, I guess that's like the short. I mean, I don't know if that was short or not, but like, we help you connect with people that have better answers, and like, our specialty is knowing the people that have the answers, and then also knowing kind of what questions to ask to help lay that roadmap out.
Yeah, so you guys are more less of the dictators of like this is the path you're going to take, and
Right.
more like you are the guides, saying that there's a lot of different pathways we can take up this mountain. We can
Yeah.
take a difficult path, we can take an efficient path, we can take a
Yeah.
path that kind of goes between the two. Like there's different
Hmm.
ways for us to get to the top. And what we can do, it's really up to the business owner or the founder that comes into the space to say, like, these are the things that I'm thinking about. This is the direction I'd like to go. I'd like to
Yeah.
get some mentorship, or I'd like to find someone I can talk to who has the experience that can help me avoid a lot of the mistakes that they have made in the past, and actually perhaps even improve upon what they've done in the past, because they've
Hmm.
learned something from that experience. I can take that and then do a different decision, a better decision potentially for the business that I'm trying to run. And like you said, you
Yeah.
guys are pretty much industry agnostic. So you've had people from like restaurants, people that do food service. You have people who are, especially like the 1 million cups program that you all do. Let's kind of talk a little bit about that, because that wasn't necessarily something that this is something that is unique to not unique to San Antonio. It came from somewhere else, but there's not really another place in San Antonio that has a program similar to that. So could you talk a little bit about 1 million cups? And then
Yeah. So
we
we
can, yeah. I was gonna say we can bring that back to the earlier point about how like Launch Say is able to help people kind of along their entrepreneurial path, and we can tie that in at the end.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, the 1 Million Cups program, it's a licensed community program that was originally developed by the Kauffman Foundation in Kansas City. And so in Kansas City, or the Kauffman Foundation, they're a very large, multi-million, billion-dollar foundation that's kind of focused on entrepreneurship development, tool building, resource building, community advocacy, and such for entrepreneurs. And so the concept of the program is to bring entrepreneurs together to provide feedback to one another in community. And it works really well. I mean, their purpose for bringing it together was really, we don't, like, hey, we're this big entrepreneurship organization, but we don't really know who the entrepreneurs are in Kansas City. How do we get them out? And so the original thesis was, if coffee brings people together, the next million cups of coffee will ideally inspire progress. And yeah, I mean, I think that they kind of got something right in the idea of community. Um, but I mean, that's a singular program. It happens 9 to 10 at Wednesday across the United States in multiple cities. I think we were like city 100 or something like that. Probably a little bit more than that, 110 or something. And now I think they're in like over 200 or 300 cities at this point. But what to Omar's point, like, yeah, it's a unique program within San Antonio. um, and we happen to be the ones that are sort of running it, but like our goal is not to repeat anything that exists within the city,
Mm-hmm.
unless there just happens to be a reason that the community feels the resource provided isn't quite living to expectation, or if there's a community gap, where a resource really isn't built, then we will build something. And so when you think about the opportunities to really present your idea to the public at all, I mean, in San Antonio, as big as a city as it is, we really don't have that many. And so that's 1 Million Cups is, I would say, sort of the premier outlet for that. We've also developed a few other programs that are sort of to aid your ability to present and pitch and just get your idea out there and get feedback. And then we also, like I said, we've solved for community issues as well. So programmatically, we've built an accelerator called Break Fast and Launch, which helps food entrepreneurs get their businesses off the ground, and we've had a lot of success with that. Handful of other programs, but yeah, the goal is really what we've seen to work is that you build together, you build in community, you lean on your peers, and you will find success. Now, I mean, that's a version, but like, you can totally do it however you want to do. But if you were to ask me what I saw worked for 90% of people, if they put the effort in, then it'd be surround yourself with other entrepreneurs, talk to them about any problems or issues that you have, and like actually talk to them. Like you can't just sit around them. You actually have to like go ask questions and listen and
Right.
evaluate and all of that stuff. And keep asking for, what the next step is. But you also, I think the 2 points are you have to actively participate in the community. And then on the flip side, you actually have to actively try to be moving forward on your business. If you don't do either one of those things, it won't work for you. So,
Right. Yeah. So in a previous episode, I spoke with Joyce Dooley, and she was somebody who I kind of feel is in a very similar vein to the things that you're doing at Launch SA, in that there's an ecosystem, an entrepreneurial ecosystem that exists in San Antonio, whether or not that be focused in tech or that might be focused in many different industries. And what a lot of those people will need is like they're builders. They want to build companies, they want to build businesses, provide services, what have you. But what they're lacking is the ability to network or to know where there is help available. And so where people like you and Joyce kind of come into play, you guys are the connectors, that you are a critical part of what helps those builders become successful in what they're doing. So in a sense, both you and Joyce are force multipliers within the community, because one, you're connecting people together. Two, those connections tend to be pathways or avenues where people can be accelerated to the next step or to a much more better position to be successful next. And three, you're both kind of storehouses of knowledge, in that you know where not where the skeletons are or the bones are buried or anything like that, but you've seen a lot in terms of your consulting and your discussions with different businesses that are out there, where you know what are good pathways to success and what are pathways that are predominantly leading to not destruction, but to an unintended or undesired area or place for an entrepreneur to be. So one of the things I told Joyce was that people like her and people like you are incredibly important to keep this ecosystem going. And I want to let you know that for one, I really appreciate that you are in the position that you are. Two, that you do the things that you do. And three, that you actually get a lot of enjoyment out of it. At least I feel, because you and I have had discussions about this before, and I think it makes a big difference when somebody is in the position like you are and they find what they do rewarding. So could you talk about, what you kind of get out of the position that you're in? And maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe you absolutely hate it, but I'd like to hear from you, like how you feel about it.
yeah. I do love it. Yeah. I'm very lucky that I get to support people every day that are trying to chase down a dream, that are trying to, make a livelihood for their family. And that resonates with me a lot because I have many entrepreneurs in my family, and, I kind of grew up in it in a lot of senses. And, I think I always look back and I say, like, for as many people as are in my family that are entrepreneurs, I was like, man, looking at it now, I'm like, you're only like one or two pieces away from really, going to that next level, whatever that would be considered, right?
Right.
And like being able to democratize, like getting people those things, I think is just kind of awesome. And so one of the things that I think there's two parts that really help me continue to enjoy it, because I'm not really I'm not really a person that I would be super excited to kind of be the cog in the machine. And if I've operationalized the role, I wouldn't really want to continue doing that because the problem to me would be solved. So
Mm-hmm.
like what I see as the bigger problem here, and what kind of keeps me passionate every day, is that I think that number one, I think that it's really great that I know a lot of people, and I think that it's great that people think that I know a lot of people.
Yeah.
Um, However, that doesn't really help in the grand scheme of things. Like if you don't know me, then, or anybody else that does something like I do, or whatever, then it's just not really opening any doors. And I think that's kind of San Antonio to me has always been a place that if you do know somebody, generally they'll, they can open a door for you. Now, will they? That's maybe a different question, but I will always open doors for you. If you have something that you want and I know somebody that might have an answer, I'll open the door. I don't see any fault in that. Some people are more protective of their networks in that sense. I just don't see the point in doing that because, again, everybody's usually like one or two conversations away from getting to that next step.
Right.
So, like within Launch SA, I think one of the goals that we've set out is how do I democratize the relationships that I have, that you have, that anyone else has, and open those up to the community? And how do I teach people the basis of business is not competition, but rather cooperation or sort of complement, right?
Right.
Because if you can do both of those things together, if I can give you like, if I could, I think if anybody was to ask, like if you were to ask me, like, or if I was to ask you, hey, what do you think's the one barrier between you and success or something like that? And any of those answers that you give me, it's usually going to lead to a person, right? If you're like money, okay, well then, money doesn't just come out of nowhere, right? Like there's a person somewhere out there that you were hoping would give you money,
Right.
or oh, I wish marketing. Okay, well then there's a person out there somewhere you wish would give you the idea that would balloon it. And so it's like, okay, well, I already know like a ton of people that have these things, ideas or whatever. I can put you in front of them, and then I just think that's like inspiring to me. So how do I remove myself from the equation to where you're not like, oh, I need to go find Ryan. I need to rather, I need to like log in to Launch SA. I don't know if that's a thing, but like, I need to go to a resource like Launch SA and believe that they will support me with the same level of value that somebody like me can potentially provide.
Right.
Because I happen to know, right? I don't want it to necessarily be me. So that's the challenge that I'm interested in solving right now, in addition to a number of other challenges. But if I think about like the broadest thing that would be sort of the nth level good, then I think that if we can democratize relationships, if we can democratize entrepreneurship, and if we can, get people to lean on peers and build peer relationships, like we as a community will thrive. And I mean, as a microcosm, our Break Fast and Launch program is that example, and it's amazing.
So there was something that you said earlier that kind of stuck with me because it echoed something that I heard from Graham Weston. This was during.
He was on your podcast.
No. He wasn't on this.
Okay.
But he did a kind of a panel discussion with, I think it's Matt Wilbanks and Chad Keck. This was an event that they did last year, and it was talking about from like startup to shut down, kind of like lessons learned. And so he was one of the founders of Help Social. I'm hoping I'm getting his name right. I think it's Matt Wilbanks.
Yeah, it is Matt Wilbanks.
Okay. He was on there because they had to shut down Help Social, and then Chad was there because they sold Promoter.io to Medallia. And then Graham Weston was there because Graham Weston likes to be places. So not to say that he doesn't have anything to add. I don't mean to be dismissive or diminutive of his presence there. But kind of like the focus was on those two guys because they had different stories about kind of like their startup from beginning to end. And it was two very different endings. But what Graham said echoed, or what you said echoed what Graham had said, is that he has very good relationships with his competitors. And he maintains those relationships with competitors because it's not so much it is competition, but it's not like a relay race in sense, or like a basketball game or football game where you're like direct opposition and have like physical force to impose on that opposition. It's more like it's a cooperation and a collaboration. So yes, salespeople will be trying to sell your product and make sure that you're not buying your competitor's product. That's fine. But when it comes to And I'd love to hear more your thoughts on this because I think it's a really interesting idea. But when it comes to the collaboration between competitors, I mean, there's a lot of good that can come from there. Not just bringing up the market or providing a new product or service or something that really helps the particular audience or the particular market in a positive way. That's something that is a potential from that sort of collaboration, that cooperation. But what are some of your thoughts about that? If you could elucidate some of that, please.
Yeah, sure. So I just want to say I definitely said it before Graham. Not that he heard me say it.
But you were there
But
at the
he
ground
probably, I
floor of
mean,
Rackspace.
he's lived more business than I have, so he probably thought it first. But
Yeah,
um,
he read it
so
somewhere.
yeah, I mean, I just like there's no point in competing. Actually, the person that really I think lives this really well is Jody Newman. She's the owner of the
Absolutely,
Friendly
yeah.
Spot. There to me, there's just no point in the idea of competition. I mean, I think that's a really old notion. Like, oh man, we want to close down Ford because we're Chevy or what? Like okay, that's great. Like or we, I mean, really, it was more I think international competition because there you have sort of that nationalist view of like, hey, we can win or whatever.
Right.
Um, and like in that sense, I guess you are competing for jobs and grander GDP and all that stuff. But on a micro scale, like on a city scale, or even on a national scale, like there's really not much to compete against. I mean, people want options. Now I don't. People may not want every option in the world, but I mean, go down the condiment aisle and tell me how many hot sauces there are, right? Like go tell me how many barbecue sauces there are, right? I
Tell
mean,
me
hey,
how many
there's like
beers there are. There's
well, yeah,
like,
nowadays, yeah, it's not, you don't just go there and say like, oh, I guess, I'll take a bud or whatever.
yeah,
Um, yeah, there's so many options and people like hunger for options. And I think even if you break that down to a brick and mortar, right? Like, I don't know when the last time that you went out, was, but if you're thinking about going on a night on the town, you're probably not thinking, I'm just going to go to one place and then call it a day. I mean, unless of course that place is like Dave and Buster's, right? Like,
yeah.
I'm just,
All
uh,
your entertainment needs in under one roof. It's the perfect
yeah, exactly.
place.
Unless it's like Main Event or the Santikos that's out in,
Like 35, right? Like the northeast part of town.
well, that one too, but the other one that they have two that are really nice. We've got bowling alley.
Oh.
Cibolo, I want to say Cibolo's one, and then there's another one like in 1604 in Calabria. Really doesn't matter. That's probably unimportant. Yellow Vista? No, that's a different thing. It
Hello,
was named after a
tangent, my
movie.
old friend.
I can't remember. Damn it. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Let's
So
spend the
anyway,
rest of the podcast thinking about this.
yeah. Well, I mean, I'm probably going to. So let me look it up. I'm just kidding. So the people want options, right? Like if think about if you have like a rug in your house, like if everyone had the same rug, it'd be really boring, right? Or clothing, same thing. Like if everyone wore the same thing, it'd be pretty boring. Like so, night on the town, you don't want to go to just one bar. You want to go to like four bars. And you probably don't want to have the inconvenience of having those four bars being in four different areas of town. That would just be it would defeat the point of really enjoying the night because then it'd be a logistical consideration.
Right.
So if you think about it, or even a food court or a food truck park or any of those other options, right? Like what's the value of a Grubhub or I don't know, any of these other, things that you can order food off of? It's that it showcases multiple options of things at once. Now, what you may still order from one place, but it's that now I have everything at the edge of my fingertips. Like, so if I shut you down and you're the bar across the street from me, I think the old notion was, oh, now I'm gonna get 100% more sale or 50% more sales because the people that were going to that bar every night are not going to be able to go to that bar. They're going to have to come to my bar. But options don't work that way, right? Like if that bar went out of business and you're the second option bar, it's likely, maybe not, completely implausible, that you might lose half your business because you no longer have the clientele that would start at that bar and then go to your bar. Those people decided, oh, well, there's another bar that I'd rather enjoy closer to my house, and I'll just stay over there, right? So you trying to put the guy out, next door doesn't make any sense, because then you eliminate the complement that was there, even if you sold the exact same product. Because even if you sold the exact same product, there was something that differentiated you. It could have been your atmosphere. It could have been your customer service. It could have been, you had umbrellas and they didn't have umbrellas. You had the one whiskey that they didn't have. You sold cheese fries and they sold chili cheese dogs. I don't know, right? Whatever it is. So I think that's like a big notion. It's not about competition in that sense. Now, on a viability aspect, competition is only good in terms of keeping the end product honest, right? So now in beer, you're not really going to get to like, oh, this is the best beer because definitively this is the best beer. I mean, that's because it involves consumer taste. But let's look at like tires, right? Like, why are there so many tire companies? Like, they're all making the same thing, right? Well, I mean, the competition there is competing on multiple issues. What they're probably not competing on most often is, well, I have the best looking tire. Or I have the best. I mean, that's probably not happening, because most of them are just straight rubber black tires. But it could be on price. It could be on feature set. Maybe this one goes through the snow, and maybe that one goes through the Sahara Desert. I don't know, right? So in feature set, that's another option that you're competing on. But that's a competition to keep, I think, the product iteration at the highest level. And then I'm trying to think. There was one other element of competition that I thought was important to mention. Oh, and really the final aspect of competition, and I'm going to move real quick because my computer looks like it's going to die. So you're going to just have to bear with me as I move to a different part.
Have to be honest, first time this ever happened on an interview. Very excited.
Oh, yeah?
I'm glad it was you.
Yeah. So you can just edit out the whole interview, in fact.
And just like have this part. Yeah, perfect.
Well, we can just start at this point, and you can just ask me the questions backwards. So yeah, the last part about competition is it's validation, right? If you're coming to the market and there's no competition, depending on what you're trying to sell or what you're trying to get at, that can be a sticky point that actually precludes you from the market, or slows your resolve to enter the market, because people are not familiar with what you're trying to sell.
Right.
And so if I told you, hey, look, I've come up with the best avocado slicer, and you're like, what do you mean? Like, what are avocados? Like, if like that's not a thing in your area, and you're like, I came up with another thing, then all of a sudden it's not now like a frightening element to say like, oh, you're first to market, and somehow that's a good thing, or you're the only one in the market, and somehow that's a good thing, because people are going to inevitably wonder, well, how come this didn't exist before? And I guess there wasn't really any reason for it before. So that you have it, I think, like, people are now making carbonated water, or excuse me, not carbonated water. I mean, that's been a thing, right? But caffeinated water. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, I don't understand why we'd want that, but people are buying it, I guess, right? But before, like, you'd have to, in order to get to caffeinated water, first you'd have to go through water, and then maybe carbonated water, and probably soda, and then somehow you can back into, okay, we're going to remove the flavors and sugar and all this other stuff from soda, and then we're going to, like, what clear looks like, and we're going to call it water, but it's going to have caffeine in it, right? Does that make sense? I mean, that's kind of like, I went a few layers around, but like, sometimes you need competition to validate that what you're doing makes sense at all.
Right. That makes perfect sense. So while you were talking, kind of the question in the back of my head was, how what was your journey to get to where you are today? So, you're young. Joyce is also very young, but
Am
you
I young?
both
Is
I mean,
that
you
what people
both
think?
I
I
mean,
just shaved my
you're
beard. That's the
clean
only reason I look
shaven.
young.
Yeah, you're clean shaven. You look like a little boy.
Yeah.
And so you both are, you have a lot of wisdom, you have a lot of experience, you spent a lot of time consulting with people and hearing their stories and learning the ins and outs. How did you get to where you are?
Happenstance.
All right, cool. All right,
Luck.
next question.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like there like if you're trying to repeat my path, I wouldn't even know where to tell you to start. Like I fell into opportunities that fell into more opportunities, and a
So
lot of it, I mean, like in the same way that people know me as a person that knows another person, like I just happened to be somebody that other people knew and respected, and they just kept pointing at other folks that might have a job, and they said, "Hey, you should hire that guy. That guy's smart." And I'm like, "Well, thanks." Like, so it's like it's relationships in some
yeah.
sense. I mean,
So tell me this then.
um,
Let's kind of start
yeah,
with whenever you and I met.
okay.
Because this was how many
So yeah,
years? How many years were you out of college, or were you still in college when we met? When we first met, this was back in like what 2013, something like that.
yeah. No, I just graduated college. I think I might have been taking like a summer course, if anything, just to like pad my stats. I'm just kidding. um,
I'm just taking like English 101 again,
yeah,
just for the heck
just
of
to
it.
just to make sure that I get my 4.0 on my resume,
That's right.
because that's how you get jobs, right?
That's exactly
So
how you get jobs. Yeah, if it's a 4.0 or nothing.
yeah, if you don't have a 4.0, you can't put it on your resume. It's just
Yeah, you're
no one
homeless.
looks at 3.99 doesn't mean anything.
Mm-mm.
So no, I think I was like if I was taking a class, it was like I had finished college with an accounting degree. I had almost enough hours to sit for the CPA exam, and I was working at the 80/20 Foundation for a minute, and then I started working for Geekdom, and then you left, and then I don't really know why you left. I mean, it was such a great opportunity. Uh, I thought we were good friends, and you just decided, I don't want to be here anymore, and then that was it.
Oh man,
So
there's a whole story there, Ryan, that you're just glossing right over.
yeah, I don't really understand. I mean, like, I thought you enjoyed what you were doing, but it's fine. So
Thank you for setting me up for failure, Ryan. Thank you very
yeah,
much. So
yeah.
yeah, I'm not going to tell that story, but eventually I will. But that's really funny.
Yeah. So yeah, anyway, I started doing events at Geek.
That was
And
literally 75% of my job was doing events at
no,
Geekdom.
I mean, I thought it was weird. Like I took all of this burden off your shoulder, and like you were supposed to be able to do all these other things, and then you're just like, I don't. I guess I'm not. I don't. You know what sounds great? Unemployment right now. So
I'll tell you this much: it was not my decision why I left Geekdom. It was not my decision.
yeah, I mean,
Ugh.
family or whatever. But uh, so yeah, I mean,
Oh
I
man.
just fell into place. Like I worked around entrepreneurs. I care about entrepreneurs. I liked staying late to hang out with the guys that would work into the middle of the night, and I would ask them like, what are you working on, and what do you think you need, and like, who are you, and like, why do you care about that? Like, I would ask all those questions to really understand them, and
What's
that
your
because that was
credit
what was
card
interesting.
number? Like, what is your social security? Can
Yeah,
you tell me your
no,
address? What's your
that's
mother's
like at
maiden
least
name?
that's once it gets to like 2 in the morning on the night shift, then you'll do that. But
That's right.
um, yeah, credit card roulette. Like, hey, how about you pay and I'll just go get it, and then you can give me the number now so I can go get it.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Um,
That never show up again.
yeah, exactly. And that's why I don't work there anymore. Um, yeah. Something about accounting mistakes. I don't know. I'm just kidding. So yeah, no, I just at the end of the day, it's I genuinely care about people. I care about what you do. Um, and it was always really funny to talk to people and hear them say like, "Yeah, I'm just really trying to figure out this one thing." And I was like, oh man, did you know that the guy sitting right next to you is like already figured that thing out? Like I just talked to him and he's like an expert at that. He was like, oh no, I didn't know that. And I was like, yeah, y'all should talk. Like y'all, I don't. And it was me going around asking people like, what are you doing? Why do you care? And like, what's going on with you? But like, it wasn't like I was like, no one gave me that membership manager name or anything like that. That wasn't even a thing. Like, I
Yeah.
just cared because I worked there. Like, I wanted to know what you did because you worked here. And like, I just want to know what you do. Like, that sounds cool. Like, you're obviously here to do something. I might as well try to help if I can. And I don't think I can help unless I know what you do. Um, so that's kind of, yeah, I mean, that's just how it fell in. Like I got good at it because I cared about it, and 9 times out of 10 the answer was sitting right next to you and you just didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that was one of the cool things about the early days of Geekdom, because I mean, not to disparage it, but there were a lot more people around back then that were in that space, and I think a lot of that had to do with Techstars Cloud, if I remember correctly, because there was a lot of
Yeah,
people that were there. But even then, like I remember when we used to do like the Geekdom game nights, we would have like not close to 100, but we'd have a ton of people in the space, and they were all congregating and playing board games and just having a really great time. And like at the Geekdom birthday parties that they'd have, like there's tons of people that are over there, really good
yeah,
opportunities to meet all these different people. But it's from if anyone can take anything from this conversation between you and me, it just sounds like the best way to get engaged is to just talk to somebody and find out what
yeah,
it is that they do. I mean, it's not
yeah.
that hard to do. It really isn't, but we tend to put a lot of kind of boundaries between each other. But for you, you're like, man, I got no boundaries. I'll walk around naked if I have to, but I'll do it, man.
You're not supposed to give my secrets away.
Yeah.
I'm a,
Sorry,
how do
Ryan's
you
an
think I'm a
elitist.
guy that knows a guy? That's the shady part. No, I'm just kidding. Um,
He's over there in my colony.
yeah, it was the game nights. So, yeah, no, I mean that's if you can take anything away from it, it would be, yeah, I'd be talk to somebody. But I think that's kind of the hardest part. What it was, if I learned anything, it's that people are not good at talking to people.
Yeah.
They don't really know how to. I mean, like you can kind of avoid oh man, it's really great weather out there today. Like you don't. I'm not saying pleasantries aren't great, but like you don't actually need to go that far. I mean, you could just, hey man, what are you working on? Like you can just start there or hey, hey gal. I mean, I don't know if that's people say gal. I think I'm the only one, but hey gal, like what's up with you? Like what are you working on? And if it's not interesting, like just save it in your back pocket. Maybe someone else will think it's interesting, and you just be, hey, like that person's talking about that too. Like you should go talk to them, and like boom, all of a sudden you know everybody. That's basically how it works.
Yeah, definitely, and I've lived that as well through my time over there. The brief time that I had working at Geekdom. Oh, that still
I
makes
don't,
me
did you
sad to
work
this
there? I
day.
don't remember seeing you after I started.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, because like whenever you got started, like I think 2 days later is when they let me go, or something like
Oh,
that. It was like a very brief time that we were coworkers. That
yeah,
memory still hurts to this day. It still hurts, even though it's
yeah.
been like 7 years.
I
But
didn't
anyway,
realize I was that bad of a coworker. That's why it hurt.
man, I wish this guy would just take a shower. Jeez.
Well, we didn't move into the new place yet, so there wasn't a shower.
That's right. Yeah, there wasn't a shower in the Weston Center.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, so what I'd like to know from you,
Yeah.
I mean, because you work, I mean, the central library is just a few blocks down from where Geekdom is currently, and
Yeah.
there's what you all are doing as industry agnostic and as important as that is. I've always felt that there needed to be more conversation between what you guys are doing and what Geekdom has been doing, and there have been opportunities for collaboration between the two. And then, like you said earlier, Geekdom and Launch SA, they're not competing in the same sort of industry, right? They're not competing in the same sort of space. Like Launch SA is not a co-working space. There is space for you to work there, and there's space for you to do training or to be trained, spaces to do talks, 1 million cups, of course, meeting spaces, but it's not a co-working space in the same way that Geekdom is.
Mhm.
So could you talk a little bit about like what the relationship is between Launch SA and Geekdom and how that has kind of evolved over time?
Yeah. So I mean, we work with agencies and groups across the city. That's sort of how we get our work done. I mean, we're a really
Yeah, of
small
course.
team, so we can only ever get things done in collaboration, especially to service, the folks that we have come through our doors. On average, we have about during a good year where people can come to the library, probably about 4,000 unique individuals will come through our doors and or through our ecosystem or sphere, however you want to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, I think we do our best to try to see who has the best answers in the community. We also do our best to try to expose people to the other options that they have in the community. So, as Omar said, we have space for you to work, but we are not a co-working space. So, with that, um, like if you were looking for space to work, then Geekdom would be one of the recommendations, or perhaps the Impact Guild could be a recommendation, or the Maestro Center, or there's like 15 other co-working spaces that we could recommend. If you said, hey, I'm looking for a place to focus on technology, Geekdom would probably be the first recommendation, considering it's technology focused.
Mm-hmm.
So in a sort of referral sense, there's that, and then I always make myself available to offer support to the community however I can. I was just recently participating as a mentor for the pre-accelerator program, which was nice.
That's cool. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know if I have anything to offer, but I'm happy to share it.
Yeah.
Um, and so wherever we can help and wherever we can collaborate. Now sometimes within the scope of the year that becomes complicated because they're usually I think about once a year you have a disease that shuts the whole world down, so um, that kind of puts a hamper in connecting and following through on a lot of the initial goals of working together and stuff like that. But um, outside of that, we do our best to try to collaborate, share resources together, build resources where there are. So, one of the things, and I do think that there is some there is some greatness in having sort of a niche to fall into, and so Geekdom focusing in on technology, I think, is great. I think that if you were to ask around, you'd probably find a lot of people to say that Launch SA is sort of food focused and not necessarily by design, but or rather not intentionally. That's not what we set out to do, but we've just developed sort of the most robust culinary program and network in the nation, I'll say. And so I mean, if you want to start a food or hospitality related business, like you'll probably hear of us.
Right.
You want to start a tech thing, you'll probably hear of Geekdom, right? And I think so. What to get into that? I think that we sort of have lanes. They overlap. I think like our base lane at Launch SA is just like general business. Like, what do you need to do to get to the starting blocks, right? Or what do you need to do to get to that first sale? No
Right.
matter what type of business, right? Or what relationships would be beneficial for you to have consultation with.
Right.
And I don't think anybody else offers that really the way that we do in the city. But I mean, wherever you start is perfectly fine. Like, I think the goal, the best case scenario would be that you end up realizing it's not just a Geekdom, it's not just a Launch SA, it's not just a UTSA, or any other facility or agency within town. But you'll start to realize like there are a lot of different things out there, each one sort of has maybe a tool for the time to jump into. And I should probably be asking them all the same questions just to see what different information I can get.
Okay.
So does that help? Was that what you're
Yeah,
looking?
it is a long answer, but essentially, if I were to kind of digest that down to a
If you were
small
to tell
tidbit,
people what I said in
yeah,
shorter words.
yes, like yes, you guys collaborate, but you only collaborate when the lanes overlap, right? When there's somebody who comes in that is looking for the type of help that exists, or is looking for a community that exists like Geekdom, but otherwise there's other avenues that you can move people through, right? There's not like a one-to-one relationship, but it's more like where our lanes meet, that's where we collaborate. That's kind of like my sense of what you had said.
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, I think really
You
the
did.
biggest overlap of any community. Sorry if I'm just like continuing
It's
on,
okay, go for it.
but I think the biggest overlap in any community is really the knowledge base or the community base that you have. So where we could, and actually where you might like this wouldn't be like a collaboration per se, because like I don't think anybody's forcing it, and it's truly unstructured. But I mean, I would say that you are a member of Geekdom and a member of Launch SA. You know, like you're advocating for both.
Right.
You are my version of collaboration. If somebody needs something like that's in a sphere of cybersecurity or tech sales or various other things that you are good at, I'm going to say, oh, you should talk to Omar. Omar being unaffiliated happens to be,
Yeah.
somebody that would maybe recommend Geekdom or maybe say, yeah, you should talk to Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely a promoter of what's going on at Geekdom, and definitely a promoter of what's going on at Launch SA.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just an overall promoter of what's happening in San Antonio, and how we're growing and how our ecosystem is changing and providing more opportunities for people to be successful in their businesses, which I think is really awesome. Now, the last question I want to ask you today is more about how somebody can give back to the greater community, right? Since we're talking as like more of the downtown center at this point, since we're talking about Geekdom is downtown, Launch SA is
Yeah.
downtown, there's a whole bunch of other resources there. You also mentioned a bunch of other co-working spaces. I mean, San Antonio is a big city, there's a lot of different people here doing a lot of different things. So
Yeah.
if I wanted to help in any sort of way, if I came to you, it's like, hey Ryan, I want to help someone out, how do I do that?
Yeah. So if you want to help, I mean, it's kind of a broad, vague question, but
It is a
if
broad
you want to,
question.
if
Yeah.
you want to get involved, what I would say is to actively participate. And active participation doesn't necessarily mean you have to walk in the door. I mean, you can, you know, like and comment on posts, or like go and watch one of the videos on YouTube and leave a comment and like share your thoughts, share your insight. Like that's how you help. You helping is not necessarily helping Launch SA specifically. You helping is sharing what you know and understand to support someone else grow. So I mean, if you want to help, do that. Do that wherever. It doesn't really matter. That'll help the whole city. So
Sweet. I think that's a really great answer.
yeah.
All right, Ryan, I always ask this question to, actually, I haven't asked everyone this question, but I'm starting to. Who would you want me to talk to next?
Huh. That's a good question.
I know, I'm full of them.
How many slots have you already filled?
Quite a bit. Currently, as of the recording of this video, I've published 6 videos, and I have 2 more in the docket to edit, plus this one, and then I have scheduled about 4 other interviews to do within the next week.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna throw out a food guy.
Go
I
for
think
it.
you should. I think you should talk to Yoni with Grain for Grain.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. If you can give me a warm introduction, I'd love to see if we can
Warm
schedule something.
transition. Yeah. Here's
Yeah.
Yoni. I'm just kidding.
Here he is, and he has a he has a heat pack on him, so he's pretty warm.
Yeah. So he does. He actually his company, him and his partner, they have a company that takes the grain from the brewing process, the spent grain, and converts it down into usable flour for all sorts of baking purposes. And they're located in San Antonio, and it's like an interesting technological function because their background is sort of in engineering and petroleum engineering, and
Wow.
they've really been able to do this and take an inefficiency and turn it into an efficiency in another industry and create a product out of it, which I think is just really stellar.
That's really
And
cool.
I'm also hyping them because they're one of the top 25 for Tech Block's Tech Fuel competition.
Oh,
So I
awesome.
selfishly want to see them win because they're food, and as much as people want to say tech is where it's at, dude, food is where it's at. So
Yeah. I mean, this is a food city. Let's be honest here.
food city, yeah.
Yeah. We got a lot of good food here in San Antonio.
I mean, I can't eat tech.
I can't eat silicon. I can't eat something with a electric current going through it.
That'll hurt my stomach. Like,
Yeah, some crazy indigestion.
I don't think they have software as a food,
No, SAF.
just as a service.
Software as an edible, delicious.
Yeah. Do they have it now with CBD or?
CBD as a service,
Yeah.
excellent.
Can I get cybersecurity with CBD in it? Like, yeah.
And just get some cybersecurity lotion, please. That's all. That's all I really need. I need to protect my
Yeah.
skin from the threat of the sun
Yeah. And anxiety.
and anxiety. Yeah, I need to tone down that.
Yeah.
Sheesh,
I don't
dude.
think they have that at Royal Blue. So
No, it's at Trader Joe's though. It's hard to find. It's always sold out. It's right
it's on the
next to
bottom
the
shelf.
yeah. It's right next to the green tea mints, which I highly
Next to the
recommend.
artichoke tea. Yeah.
Yeah, it's right next to the artichoke tea. I remember, just quick story. I remember when we actually gave you like a taste of the artichoke tea, and when you took a sip, and you're like, "It's all right." Like your facial expression was like, "This is the most disgusting thing I've
It
ever put in
wasn't
my mouth."
disgusting. It was like drinking mushroom tea. Like, I was just like, this is kind of umami, you know?
Yeah. No,
It's
but
okay.
like your facial expression though, like I know you were trying to be funny. Like you took a sip, and you're like, "It's good. It's all right."
Yeah.
And then like
Does it come with sugar? Yeah.
yeah, like could I get like less of this next time?
Yeah. Do they make this in K cups or?
Hey, that's the innovation right there. To get your vegetables in tea form in a K cup, boom. Not only are you
Yeah.
creating a new problem with the whole waste of all the K cups, but it's vegetables, so it evens out.
Well, you can make the cup out of the artichoke, and then the heart, and then the tea is in the heart.
Whoa.
You can call it heart tea.
Oh my gosh. Like what was it? Like the Honest Tea? Like that
Yeah.
brand? Call it Hearty? Oh my
It's $1 million
gosh.
idea right there. Let
I
me tell you
know.
how to. Yeah.
Yeah, let me go to Lunch SA. Let me go to Lunch SA and
Yeah. Only
and
if you bring tea.
yeah, only if we bring tea.
You're gonna have to edit this whole portion out, I'm sure.
No, I'm keeping it, man. I'm keeping it. This is raw. You
Raw,
know?
raw like the tea. Yeah.
Just like
Raw
that,
like
yeah.
tea.
Because it's
Yeah.
tea leaves in the water. Not everyone likes it, but they should. Anyway, so Ryan, thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you so much for chatting with me. It's always a good time
Or
to hang out with you. I still need to give you a time to help you with your patio work.
I
And
dig it.
that will come soon. Maybe not during this interview, but maybe a little bit later. Again, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. And for you all watching, thank you all so much for that. Be sure to comment and give me some feedback about this. Be sure to subscribe if you want to know more about the different members in our yeah, it's down here, I suppose.
I always want to
And
do this. I don't know
yeah,
if this.
and like it's like what is this like? And there's like a little. I mean, I'm on the left side of the screen. You're on the right side. So if you put like your left hand up, then you can be like, hey, there's a little eye card up there that will do something. But I don't have that feature yet because I'm not like a super duper YouTuber.
I think they have it that you can do it in YouTube Studio or something.
Yeah, something like that. I'm exploring. I'm learning about this stuff, and it's a lot of fun. But of course, everyone who's watching, I always want to remind you at the end of every video to be helpful. Just like Alan Weinkrantz told us many, many times.
Be helpful.
Be helpful. Y'all take care. We'll see you next week.